Hello. So you all know who I am, and I don't know who you are, which is a bit rude on your part, I'd like to point out. How many designers have we got? That very bright, can't see. Okay, how many developers? Whoa. How many content people? Oh, come on, hello. You're my favourites. Anybody else? Like product or delivery? Sorry? Project managers. It's just you, sir. Still, hello. Is that about right? Okay, so at the moment, you're all lovely. You're all in your disciplines. But by the end of today, I want to get you to love your inner content strategist, because you have one. I'm going to release them today, if you've never seen one. I'm not saying you are one, I'm saying that you have a little bit of one somewhere. Who's seen a content strategy? That's offensive, that. Okay. Who knows what one is? Okay, couple. Who's seen one in the past 6 months? Yeah, that's about right. All right, let's start with that. We'll start with what a content strategy is. This was written in 2007 by Rachel Lovinger. The main goal of content strategy is to use words and data to create unambiguous content that supports meaningful, interactive experiences. We have to be experts in all aspects of communication in order to do this effectively. Now, in 2007, when she said this, content strategy as a term was starting to come to the fore, and it caused a little bit of a hoo-ha. A lot of content people said, what do you mean I have to be an expert in all forms of communication? That makes me jack of all trades, right? And master of none. I'm good at writing, I'm good at video, I'm good at tools, I'm good at this. I can't do this. So this was in 2007, as I say, caused a little bit of a storm. Fast forward, 2010, not with that clicker because it's not working, and Brain Traffic, led by Christina Halvorson, who wrote a brilliant book, came out with this, and this is pretty much what we all do. So these red bits, workflow and governance, they're the sort of boring-y bits, really. They're not the boring bits, they're the people bits. They're the people that do your core strategy. Now, your core strategy is a dream. So when I went down to the beta of the government digital service to do GovUK, my dream, content strategy dream, that core bit, was to make government language so understandable it would be accessible for anybody who was interested enough to go looking for it. So it's not a process, it's literally an aspiration. Those red bits are the people bits that help that aspiration come to life. So it's kind of, workflow is how it gets from writer to editor to sub-ed or whatever. Governance is who has to sign it off, those sorts of things. Little note for you, there was a government department who will remain nameless who had a 27-point approval process. It took 3 months for every piece of content to go up. Needed to go through 27 people. Not now, I'd like to point out, but that's what it was like a few years ago. So those are the bits, those are the human bits, and the blue bits are the content-y bits. Substance is what you say. It's your tone, it's the data that you use to get that sort of thing, it's your messaging, it's all those sorts of things, and structure is how you say it. So on what channel, what's your architecture, all those sorts of things. I want to concentrate on the blue bits, on the substance and the structure today, because it is the thing that affects the people that we care about or should care about the most, which is the users. So that's what we're going to start with today. Let's talk about them. Number one, they are human. Stay with me. It's a basic kind of thing, but I think some people, particularly government, at one point got lost with that. All user experience, everything we do, everything we design, develop, or write for should be for the human, I think, and not for the organisation necessarily who's spouting it out. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about humans and how they might behave. I'm a single mum. I've got 3 kids. I moved recently. My nearest backup is 40 minutes away. My kids are in bed. I'm downstairs. I'm there with my cinnamon and vanilla herbal infusion. I've got 17 different types of tea in my house. I like tea. I'm just about to sit down, get a book out, lovely. I hear this weak cry from upstairs. Mum, I've got a rash. I put my tea down. Internally, I'm thinking, how do you know? Your light is off and your eyes should be shut. Unless you've got that funny little torch thing that your grandmother gave you that I expressly told her not to buy for you, unless you've got that on, how do you even know you have a rash? Outwardly, trotting upstairs, all right, sweetie, it's probably just a heat rash, let's have a look. Having a look at this rash, and I stop dead. That's not a heat rash. That's something that I haven't seen before. Okay, let's just take your temperature, do the tumbler test. Got neck ache? No? Right, it's not meningitis then. Suddenly, my ability to think has gone from that to that. My vocabulary has gone from that to that. This isn't a minor inconvenience that takes me away from my tea. My kid obviously has some flesh-eating disease that will kill him in the next 2 minutes, and it's all my fault for not spotting it earlier. So this is all going on internally, obviously. Outwardly, I'm like, it's okay, I'll just go look it up. Within 60 seconds, I'm downstairs, I've got my wallet in my back pocket, my keys are in my hand, my phone is in the other hand, my foot is out the door, and I'm ready to go to my neighbour to get her to come round, look after my other kids, while I haul this one off to A&E. And I put in the words, child rash, right, because that's all I've got. I know that I've got no backup, and this is a thing that I haven't seen before. So I put in child rash, yeah? This is what I get. You can see that top one, you can't probably see it very well. It says, childhood rashes are very common and are often nothing to worry about. Most rashes are harmless and go away on their own. Brilliant. Right, all the chemicals are now going, adrenaline is now going out of my body, I'm calming down. I'm gonna stop banging on my neighbour's door going, he's dying, help me. That's all stopped. Kind of just backed away slightly, shut the door really quietly, hope that she thinks it's kids mucking about. So whilst I am exaggerating ever so slightly, when you have that kind of emotional response to something, your vocabulary does do that. You know that you have a common vocabulary, 15,000 words? You get a primary set that's 5,000 words, you have a secondary set that's 10,000 words, you use those 80% of the time. It's incredible. You have a lot wider terms. You have up to 30, 50,000 terms. You don't use a very small set. And you have that kind of emotion, you go, la la. So I want you to keep that in mind when I go through to the next example for you. Does anybody remember DirectGov from this country? Anyone? Couple. Big orange affair. I worked on it, so I feel fully versed to tell you this little story. I went to a department who was running something for new parents. Now, apparently, new parents get quite obsessed, and I'm going to be a little bit crass here, so just bear with me. Green poo, right? Apparently, it's quite a drain on some government sources because it happens and everybody freaks out when it happens because of new parents. Are there any new parents in? No. Hey! Congratulations. You will get this. It will go all up your arm. It'll be disgusting. Anyway, so I said to them, I wrote this piece. It's a lovely piece. So we're going to do this. And they said, like most of it, little bit of a problem with that word there. Which one? Poo. We can't put that word on a government website. We're government. We're authoritative. We're brilliant. We're Winston Churchill. We're not poo. And I said, no. We need to put that word on because everybody's using that word. No, has to be stools. And I said to them, what do you think is going to happen when you put green stools on a page and poo nowhere else, and you type green stools into Google? What do you think is going to happen? Yeah. So, taking the example that I gave you before, where I'm smacking down my neighbour's house, is that going to help me in any way? I'm just going to be sitting there thinking, what, there's furniture coming out of his butt soon? What? So humans are emotional creatures. They're also very busy. That affects the content strategy. So that bit about the rash with those first few sentences in the search results telling me I was completely overreacting is brilliant. That's content strategy right there. Not that a lot of users would ever see it. 1 second. We're going to play a game. On the next slide, I'm going to show you a page that you would have got from Google on DirectGov if you had typed in renew adult passport. Yeah, we know from user research that this task is in 2 bits. One, people would just look normally on their phone to get the price of it, and then they will apply later on a different device. We know this. So I'm going to time you. I'm judging you. Put up your hand when you can see how much it costs to renew an adult passport in the UK. Ready? Can you see it? Can you see it? It's not on that page, is it? It's nowhere near it. It's there. It's under there. The centre of information is quite strong, really. It didn't bomb out, but that's where you would have ended up, not on the next page. It was kind of in the 3rd paragraph down. Going to play the game again. Still going to time you. Find the price of an adult passport in the UK. Can you see it? Yeah. GDS has a strapline, simpler, clearer, faster. Do you think that is? I'm going to play it one more time. Ready? What's the price? There you go. It's right there. People like GDS don't need traffic. Your government. You have to deal with us, actually. You've got to come to us. So we don't need the kind of ROI. We don't need those kind of numbers. We never needed those kind of numbers. What we need is to get content to citizens of the UK. So it's a different ball game. So the content strategy is different. So you'll see, remember that drawing in the beginning, for a commercial company, that core strategy might be to sell loads of whatever. For the British government, it's not the same thing. Okay, point number 3. Humans are very mistrustful. Well, some humans, but most humans are very distrustful. 80% of the world, 80% of the left to right reading Western world consumes information in exactly the same way. It's pathological. There's nothing you can do about it. Your eyes do this funny thing, fixations and saccades. Your brain does this great thing, and wallop, you decode. You work it out and you understand. You can train yourself to read in a different way. And there's some apps at the moment that are doing that to do speed reading and things. But you have to physically train yourself, and you have to practice that for it to become a habit. And I can't really see why you'd bother, but still. I can control what you think and what you read by using grammar, spelling errors, various spellings, tone, punctuation. I can control your reading much better than you can. You have to train yourself. I just need to know the rules. But I can only do that if you trust me. I can't do that if you come to a site and you look at it and you go, I don't know what this is. Because no matter what I say or how beautifully I say it, you're not going to trust me. Hands up who trusts the British government. Okay, 1, maybe, probably not from this country. I'm only joking. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Another example for you. Let's take you back a few years and let's pretend that you're sitting in a kitchen and you're thinking, this is when Afghanistan was kicking off. What is the UK's government position on this? I want the official policy, please. You would go to Google, you're right, government, Afghanistan policy. And first of all, you would go to this site, right? It's Foreign and Commonwealth site. Then you would go to this site, which is the other Foreign and Commonwealth site, because they need 2 on the same thing. Then you go to the Ministry of Defence, because we're bombing people, that would be necessary. Then the Department for International Development, because once you've bombed people, you have to build their countries back up. Number 10, they have an opinion, and then the Stabilisation Unit. I worked in Whitehall for 10 years, no idea who these people are, never fell over them. However, they are part of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office because they need 3 entirely separate websites on the same bit of information. Home Office, because we all need to know where the Home Secretary goes, and money from the Cabinet Office. We also have a position from the Deputy Prime Minister. So you can read 9 different websites, and by the time you get to the end of it, you probably still don't know what the government's position on the Afghanistan policy is. If you have 9 different architectures, 9 different vocabularies, 9 different styles, 9 different tones, how do you know that you've got to the end of it? How do you trust it? Would you trust it? Did you trust it at the time? You can't. Users will often look for the edges of a bit of content. You know this. They'll look for the edges to say, have I got it all? If not, I'm not getting this. I'm going back to something else. So if you take that example, right, each of those government departments had all of this. They had a workflow. They each had their own teams. I mean, each of those websites had their own teams. They each had governance, 27-point approval process. They each had structure, because they're on their sites, they have Twitter streams, they have all these things, and they have substance. But it didn't really work for the fundamental reason that users, humans, just couldn't care less which bit of government does what some specialists do and some practitioners do. 80% of the UK simply couldn't care less. They see government as one thing, one entity. So if you went to an organisation that gave you 9 different websites on the same thing, would you trust it as much? Yes? No? No? No. Neither would I. So when GovUK came along, we had this. I've got a slide at the end that's got all the URLs in, by the way, so this is up and open. GDS published it. These design principles are the content principles as well. The design principles are not, a lot of people just think it's just about design patterns. It's not. It's about everything. So I'm just going to take a couple of them, and then you can get the URL at the end and have a look. But start with use is user needs, not government needs. We don't care what government really needs to say to you. We need to know what the user needs to take from that. Design with data. It's lovely if you've got opinions. You've got all sorts of people sitting around having 20 different opinions. Brilliant, lovely. We've all got one. It makes them useless. We might as well get some data and do it properly. Do the hard work to make it simple. We need to hide the complexity from the users. They don't need to know the inner machinations of government. They just need to know the one thing that they're looking for. These design principles are supported by the style guide, which is an editorial style guide. How many of you have seen one of those? Yay, more. Yay! Yeah, good. That normally involves your tone and your insight and all that sort of thing. So it's unsurprising you've seen one of those more than the content strategy. Covers everything. From tone, style, use of capital letters, things like that. And for us, this is the plain English list. It was also called the banned words list. We banned loads of words. Government now can't use those on GovUK. Shouldn't be using them because they're empty and they don't mean anything, or they're being used in the wrong way. Taking one example, slimming down, I love that. We're slimming down the process. You just, files don't get up, walk over, going, I'm doing the 5-2 thing this week. They don't do it. You're doing something with it and you're going to lessen it and you're going to shorten the time or something. It made it all active. When you do this amount of cutting and this amount of change to a big organisation, you end up with some press. You end up, in this case, we were in the radio and on the TV and whatever, and then it starts to gain traction. Because people, humans, the humans that are reading it, suddenly find it more interesting. In the end, we ended up with this. It's one page on Afghanistan, the policy pages. Janet Hughes ran this. She now does GovUK Verify. You can see all the departments, those 4 on the top. It's all written in plain English. It's all in clear. These tabs, anything that government does about anything to do with Afghanistan is on that page. So, at GovUK, does anybody remember Business Link? No? Hey, did you love it? Did you? Hated it. 70,000 pages on BusinessLink. BusinessLink was a site from government to small businesses. 70,000 English pages. That's not even including Welsh or translations, etc., etc. And DirectGov, that orange monstrosity that I did work on, had over 5,000. When we launched GovUK, we had just over 3,000 pages covering both. And no users came to scream at us. The authors did, but the users didn't notice any difference. So, brilliant, right? Government's got it sorted. Hurrah! Maybe not. Let's take this example, universal credit. This is on mainstream. So this is on, if you just do GovUK, this is here. Does everybody know what universal credit is? It's a benefit. It takes in, I don't know what it is, 12, 25, whatever, other benefits and gives it to one, and then you give it to a client in one go at the end of the month. Now, for some clients, brilliant, because they just want government out the way. Like, I don't need you to pay 13 different benefits to me. I just need the one thing, move, I can sort it out. For other clients, it's terrifying. They've never budgeted in that way. So it's quite a massive shift from where we are. GovUK, content design team did that. You can clearly see what the edges are. Everything is in plain English. Everything is how a human behaves. Design, content, dev, the lot is to how a human behaves. So say you've got this, right, but you're still a bit curious, and you go off onto the department. You know, it's the Department for Work and Pensions. And you go onto this and you type in universal credit and you get this page. Lovely. PIP. Ian Duncan Smith, PIP, and Hancock. I've put in universal credit. What? And here we have universal credit, frequently asked questions. I have a rant about this. I'm going to keep quiet because I just hate them. So it'll take me an hour to tell you why. So we're going to forget that and say you're on this page and you're like, do you know what, that's not anything for me. I don't know what PIP is for a start, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I'll go and search. So you search and you end up with this, and this is better. This is better. Now, DWP has a massive audience, right? And it's only got one channel to go out on, GovUK. So it's got to talk to the people who are applying for it and the people who are running it. They've got to get to the specialists, the practitioners, the lawyers, and the clients. So they do have quite a wide audience. So there's quite a bit on GovUK. But let's just say you have a little look around and you pick this one because it's interesting, right? And it affects you as a human. You are renting a house. So you go to this. Makes sense, right? No, this is for landlords. It's not written for you. GovUK, the mainstream side, which the department is aware of, has already written about that. But they're going to write that way. But fair enough, there are some users who would like to see what the other side is kind of being told, so it might be interesting to them. So we're going to go to another one, universal credit in your family. Most of this is duplicated. Most of this is duplicated on the mainstream side, on the GovUK side. This is where we're kind of going backwards. And I've left GDS, so I feel fully okay to tell you this. We're swamping it again because you will never know where the edges are, and that trust will start to drop. It's confusing, and if you are under an emotional state like the rash story that I was telling you before, would you want to go to 5 different places? Would you want to look at several tones? Would you want to download PDFs and that sort of thing? Or would you want it presented in quite an easy way, get the information and run off? I would say the latter. It's kind of confusing, and it's no wonder people need to go for advice to get this sort of thing sorted out. So hold that in your mind for a moment. Number 4, and the last one on this, is humans need help sometimes. My work at the moment, where I'm just finishing, is citizens' advice. Does everybody know what that is? No? National treasure, citizens' advice. It's the UK's largest advice-giving charity. You can walk into a citizens' advice centre and say, I've got a dodgy mobile phone contract, I've got bailiffs at my door, or I'm a victim of domestic violence, and they will help you. You can go in with practically anything and they'll help you. There's a wonderful centre in Sheffield, which is entirely for British Sign Language users. They can walk in there and they can entirely converse on any problem that they have. 22,000 volunteers up and down the country. They're brilliant. So we've seen that government can be confusing. So we needed to adapt our content strategy, our design strategy around that. But when I walked in, I thought, this is fine, right? GovUK's audience was everybody, and you need to sort out a problem. Brilliant, yeah? Citizens' advice, same thing. Awesome. I'll just take what I did over there and pop it over here, and I'll look fabulous. Yeah. Life just doesn't work like that, does it? Cutting content is really easy. It's really easy. You get data, you get the analytics, you get the vocabulary that people are using, you put it onto your pages, you make it short, you make it succinct, and you write for how the human brain works. Easy. Advice, entirely different thing. You've got to get in the way of the user's journey. You've got to stop them. You've got to help them think, because for most people, they don't know what the problem is. One of the advisors very early on said to me, people come with one problem, but they have between 22 and 25 problems behind them. So they might come and say, there's bailiffs at my door, I don't know what my rights are. But what actually happened is 2 years ago, they were unfairly dismissed. And none of that hell in the past 2 years should have happened. So the advisors, who are just incredible, pick all that human stuff apart to get to the end point. This is one of the problems, however. We don't get to 40% of our audience. I was in a city up north a bit, and they open their doors at 9. By 10 o'clock, all the appointments are gone, and the appointments go until 6 o'clock. They take in their last one at 6 o'clock that evening. There's just too many people with too many problems. Some of that is just assisted digital, because they can't get online or they don't want to, which is fair enough. Some of them is because all the information is very turgid. Some of it is that it's just not understandable. So at the moment, as I said, I'm leading a digital project that's kind of sorting that out. Now, we give tactical advice on how to get round things. So we don't need to do what GovUK is doing. The content strategy is as much about what not to do as to what to do. Because GovUK sucks with the Google juice. Yeah, if you write in universal credit, they're number one. Any kind of benefit, they're number one. Any government thing, they're number one. Brilliant. So we don't need to. What we need to do is those edges, that kind of stuff around it. This works really well. This is that human thing that a designer came up with a solution for us because he understood what the content strategy was. So these are example boxes. Now on GovUK, I was like, we're not having any of those. Strip it right back to the bare bones. On Citizens' Advice, we have to have these. People love these. They love that human element to it. They can understand it more. It gains their understanding, so they can read through it and then they can apply it to their situation. Don't need that so much on GovUK. For some things, but generally not. On this, we need them a lot, and we know that from research. So that's the main part of our strategy, actually. If somebody else is doing it better, we don't need to do it at all. We do things like this, and this is where the experience goes beyond digital. So in the universal credit journey, you have to go for this interview, and some people get very anxious about it, particularly people who haven't had jobs, or they've been dismissed from a job and they don't have very much confidence. Maybe they've been out of work for a long period of time. And they'll sit in the interview and they'll say, what can you do? And they'll go, nothing, I can't do anything. I've got no skills. And it's not true, it's just not true. Job Centre Plus are under a lot of pressure, so they don't push them so much. Some do, not everybody. So we came up with things like this. You'll go to a page and it's information, but nobody wants to take a page, do they, to an interview and stuff like that when they're already hyper anxious. So we have an extra bit where you can print it out. We've taken the core points of the content and spread it out and put these lines on it so that they can write on it and just take it and go, there you go. This is what I think, because I've already had a think about it. So the digital strategy, the content strategy, is to go beyond the digital. Is to take it one step further so that it's useful. And that's because we believe, I definitely think, users shouldn't read anything. And I am taking the terminology back to users, because humans should read, right? You're talking to somebody who had a custom-built bookcase because there was none bigger in the world that would take all my books. So humans should read, I'm not saying that, but users shouldn't read anything, they should understand. For me, in the work that I do, reading is really quite useless. I don't care if you read it, I need you to understand it. If you don't understand it, you can't act on it. And I need you to do some sort of action attached to it. You can't act on something until you find it and it's accessible. And I'm not just talking about screen readers there. I'm talking about language that includes you and a design that doesn't scare you and development that doesn't take forever or move in a way that you don't, you can't get with. You have to trust it and have the confidence in it, so that's where the edges come and that's where design comes in, and that you stick to the point. That takes all the disciplines, not just content, but it should all be in your content strategy. I'm just going to talk to you quickly about why number 3 is very important, stick to the point. This is another example from GovUK. If you get pregnant and you want to go onto maternity leave and all that sort of thing, it's actually quite a nightmare. DirectGov had like 7 1,000-word articles on this. They have ridiculous sentences like, you need to do something 3 weeks before the 15th week before your baby is due. Ridiculous. So now we have this, or they have this, I should say, and it's just a cute calculator. I don't need them to read any of those words. I need to understand. They need to understand what they're doing to get the information that they need at the end. I'm just going to skip past that because it's taking a while. This one is also an example. Come on. It's a brilliant example, isn't it? That took us weeks, that did. Go. Go. Whee! This came from a designer. This is a form. DWP have done a brilliant thing, and they've put their ESA, which is Employment and Support Allowance, they've put their form in plain English, which is brilliant. It's brilliant. But what happens is people go, oh, this is brilliant. Tick, 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 send it off. DWP goes, no, you can't have it. 13 weeks without any money, and people are going to food banks. So they've done a great job. Might have taken it a little bit too far. Designer came up with this because he understood the content strategy. He understood what we were getting to. He understood that core strategy, that aspiration, and how we were going to get there. In advice centres, when they're filling out the forms with the client, they'll say, can you walk 50 metres? That's from here to the phone shop over the road. Well, we can't do that digitally. Well, we probably could do it digitally, but it'd be a bit difficult with Google and things. So he just put that in, and boom, understanding went through the roof. No words, don't need words, not for everything, but it's still the content strategy. My last example, this is a quote from the beginning of the beta at GDS. I'd just written this fabulous piece of content. Yeah, it was gorgeous, it was shiny, it was plain English, all the headings were perfect, lovely. And I put it in front of this woman, and she was one of the best, she was just one of those perfect participants. You know, the ones that just gives you a running stream and they have an opinion on everything. She was brilliant. And she read my content, and she was getting quieter and quieter. It's just making me worry a little bit. And she kind of leant forward, and she squinted at the screen, sneering. And she sat back, and she went, is that from government? And the researcher said, yes. She said, I understand that, I don't trust it. Bang, she was back out to Google. She didn't get it at all. She was like, yeah, no. She said, no, it's not. It's a fake site. It's like a spam site. I don't get it. I need the proper government one. I was mortified. Oh my God, I've got to go back now and redo all that turgid, nasty, legal language. Otherwise, nobody's going to trust me. Nobody's going to trust the whole site. Luckily, design came bounding in, and Ben Terry put a big black line and a crown stamped in the side. Did the same thing. So the content didn't need to do anything to make it more trustful, but the design needed to. You see what I mean? They're all interlinked. So these are ways that content impact your design, and how you, as designers, developers, content people, obviously, all have your inner content strategist, because you probably do this, right? Oh, somebody nod. You all do this, right? You all take this into account, yes? Yes. Yay! Okay, somebody's here. I know you've got post-lunch slump. Work with me. I'm going to give you 3 reasons to work with content people, because your little inner content strategist is dying to get out, and you just need to help them. Number 1, they do bonkers things, but for good reasons. So just bear with me here. Content people know line length affects memory. By the time you're 9 years old, you can drop 30% on a page, any device, and still accurately predict the context of that piece. They know that subheads can tell a story and can place people so that they can put them backwards and forwards. Did you know that you take fewer eye muscles to look down than you do across? There's a theory on that's why everybody looks down first. I have no idea how they're going to validate that theory. However, I'll share the theory with you. They know these things, so they will have an opinion on how the page looks. And you designers clearly have an opinion on how the content looks, right? Because it's the same thing. It's the same core need. What we're trying to do is get to the same aim. We're just coming at it from different sides. Number 2, they can annihilate your service. I'll tell you another little story. As a GDS, and one of the product owners rang me and said, "Hi, sir, I need one of your lot to come over and proof my service that's going live next week." I was like, proof? You want them to proofread it? The service that we've never heard of and we've not seen before. You want them to look for typos and grammar errors, do you? Okay. This is an award-winning team, right? These are people who have been sweating blood and tears, getting 75,000 pages down to 3,000, and you think we're just going to look for typos, okay? Here we go. So I popped one of my guys over, and English is his second language, actually, and he's quite clipped in his verbal language. He's an incredible editor, but he's quite clipped with his verbal language. And he went back over, and he came back a couple of hours later, and I was like, "It's a bit quick, you all right? What happened?" He said, "Well, I tweaked it." Tweak, for those of you who don't know, is a major alarm bell. Somebody says they tweak it, you run. So I went, "Okay." And I ran off, grabbed my phone, rang the product owner. "Hello, how did it go?" And I had the phone here, and a second I had the phone here. He was ranting at me, screaming down the phone. "He can't do that. He's coming here. He's deleted 30% of our pages. He's got rid of the calculator. He's got rid of the widgets. He can't do it." I waited like that, and then I said yes. But was he right? Silence. Yes, he was right. Nothing we can do about it. Service is going live next week, la la la. Then there were further iterations, and the service got cut and cut and cut. And it went from this to this. It went from 30 minutes to get through to about 7 or 8. The thing with content people is, the thing in this story, the guy had been writing the content for weeks. He knew it inside and out. The service had a user researcher, had business analyst, had a developer, several developers, had a designer, had the lot. Brilliant. And of course they understood the content because they read it once. And they had a business analyst. And they had people from that government department who knew that thing, which I'm trying to anonymise it, that thing backwards. Great. What you know is too much. You have too much in here that you think is important and it's not. The thing with my guy, who's very clipped, and tweaked it slightly, is that he could just annihilate the whole thing because he understood it. Third and final thing, she says, I know I'm running out of time, content isn't a boxed thing. It sounds like content should just be written down. A couple of thousand words, away you go. It's the thing on those pages, it's not. That example that I gave you from Citizens Advice takes it beyond digital, and there are stacks of examples of those, none of which I've got time to go through. Last but not least, working together can stop people having to use food banks. I don't work in the gaming industry or in the, selling books and coffee tables and all those sorts of things. For me, it's a very real thing. And if the designers and the developers and the content people don't understand the content strategy, of what is the core aspiration, how are we going to get there, what are we going to say, how and when are we going to say it, I'm not exaggerating, like I was massively before, when I can say people will understand more and they will stay out of food banks. So, that's all I have for you. That's the URLs of the things that I've been talking about today, and thank you very much.